Now, for most of us, working from home is a whole new ball game when it comes to the setup that we've got and also the environment that we're working in. And this is particularly true when we think about the fact that we're far more likely to get eye strain and visual discomfort working from home than we are in the office. In this video, I'm going to give you 6 tips to help you see more comfortably and experience less eye strain when you're working from home and you've got some serious work to get done. I'm Martin Aguzi and this is Martin's Eye Tips. Thank you for joining me. I'm a UK based optometrist where I've been working for about 20 years now. And this channel is all about helping you see better, see more comfortably and be less anxious about your eyes. So if you're new here, please think about subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell as well so you get reminded every time I release a new video. Let's get going with today's video, all about helping you see more comfortably when you're working from home. So number 1 on my list is to optimize your background lighting. Now, one of the things about using computer displays and devices is that they really have this bright screen, and often you can forget about the background and the fact that the background can be so much more dimmer in contrast to this bright display that you're looking at. And it's important to get the balance right so that the background lighting is almost comparable to the brightness of the screen. And that means you will have to kind of really be in an environment where the lighting is either great natural light, or you have to really make sure you've got a good background bright light as well. Now, one critical thing that happens when we look at an object that's close up, such as our computer screen, is that our pupils constrict, and that's to say that our pupils get smaller in size. And this is an important observation to understand because there are many things that our pupils will respond to. So for example, when we look at things further away, our pupils want to dilate, so they get bigger. When we look at an object close up, they want to do the opposite, they get smaller. And also our pupils respond to lighting levels. So when we're looking at a bright display, for example, that encourages our pupil to also respond by getting smaller. And when we're in an environment that's dim and dark, the opposite happens. It encourages our pupil to expand and get bigger. So if you're in an environment where you've got your monitor close up to you and you're looking at this bright display close up to you, those factors will encourage your pupils to get smaller. But if you're in an environment that's dark, or there's a big contrast between your display that you're looking at and the surrounding environment, that's going to cause a conflict, because one's telling your pupils to get small and the other one's telling your pupils to get big. And this can cause a conflict which can lead to discomfort of your eyes and can lead to eye strain. Eye strain, by the way, is an aching, pulling, tension sensation that people often notice around their eyes. So when you experience that, that's going to make it difficult for you to work for prolonged periods of time comfortably. Now, going further on from that, and to also set the scene for some of the other tips that I'm going to give you, I just want to point out that there's 3 key things, in fact, that happen whenever we look at an object close up. So these 3 key things happen to our eyes, and they form a phenomenon that's very well known in optics. It's called the near triad. The near triad is these 3 key things that happen. So the first one we've talked about, and that's the fact that your pupils constrict. And then secondly, the other thing that happens is that your eyes converge. So the muscles that move your eyes, they line your eyes so that they can kind of point inwards to address the object that you're looking at close up to you. And then the third thing that happens that makes up the near triad is that your eyes autofocus. So the muscles that do the focusing of your eyes, they kick in as well. So you've effectively got these 3 changes that work complementary together, and they kind of work to help you see more comfortably close up. So that is your pupils constricting, your eyes turning in, and then your autofocusing kicking in a process that we call accommodation to allow you to be able to see comfortably working close up. And that brings me on to the second point. So my second point is really tip number 2, and this is to optimize your screen position. Now, your screen position really is something that should be individual to you. Different people have different focus points. So if your eyes are focusing at 50 centimeters and you're actually then forced to work at 30 centimeters, that may not be appropriate for your eyes because your focusing ability may not be adequate, and you may also be just more uncomfortable in that position, whereas somebody else may be perfectly fine working in that position because either they are a lot younger in age, so their manual focusing, etc., is a lot more capable, or they just may not have the same kind of prescription as you in their glasses. So there's a range of different things that means that your position has to be unique and individual to you. So you have to make sure that you really optimize the position where your screen is going to be. You optimize it for what your eyes are capable of being able to deal with. How I would advise that you do this is to get an object, a reading object, and this can just be your laptop with a font that you are most likely going to use. Then hold the computer screen and hold the laptop or your device screen at the point where you can see comfortably. Then extend your arms right out till the font starts to go blurry or starts to get difficult. Then you can stop at that point because you know that that's the extreme of your range. Then move the laptop or the device closer towards you in the opposite direction and come as close as you absolutely can till the device display starts to become noticeably uncomfortable or starts to become blurry. Then again, this is your optimum point close to you. So in between those 2 points, so the point closest to you and the point furthest away, that's your range of clear vision. Now, the most important and the most optimum place to be able to have your reading device or your computer screen, your display, is at about the middle of those 2 blur points. So that middle point is really where your screen should be, because at the middle point is where you've got the most comfortable capability to focus and hold your focus for longer periods of time. And then working at this point will allow you to be able to have more visual comfort for longer periods of time. So if you remember back to we talked about the near triad. So the other 2 parts of the near triad, so that is your eyes converging in and also your auto focusing. Those 2 factors are really affected by you working at the position that is most comfortable for you. So if you're holding, for example, your laptop screen too close near the extreme of the range or too close to that near kind of blur point, then it's going to be harder to work for long periods of time, working at that position. And in the same respect, if you're holding it too far back from the middle of the range, then it's also going to get difficult after a certain period of time of use. So you really want to be kind of in that middle of the range, which really is the kind of sweet spot and the optimum point to maintain your focus comfortably for the longest period of time. Now, my third tip is to consider your display screen brightness. Now, for many of us, things look nice and crisp when we've got a really bright screen and we feel like, we're really kind of seeing a nice contrast because the screen is so bright. But if you're going to be working for a prolonged period of time, you have to really consider whether the level of brightness that you've got your screen permanently set at is necessary. In actual fact, I think most people can really benefit from having their screen brightness reduced to around about the 50% mark, or at least to the point where you can comfortably see without having such an intense screen brightness glaring back at you. One of the reasons why having a really bright screen might be uncomfortable for you is the fact that, again, relating back to the impact on your pupils, when you've got a really bright light shining at your pupils get really small. And again, thinking back to the near triad that we talked about, this is important because if your pupil gets very, very small, this may also influence the other 2 factors in the near triad. So that's your auto focusing and how your eyes converge. It may kind of put pressure on those 2 other aspects of the near triad to want to kind of kick in and artificially adjust more than they would ordinarily because they've been influenced by the other member of the near triad. So these 3 aspects, how your eyes turn in and how your autofocusing works and how your pupils react, one can influence the other. So if you've got your pupils, as I said, being really constricted, then this can really make things uncomfortable for you because it's affecting these other aspects that I talked about as well. So we can influence that by keeping the brightness down to what is necessary. This then most people find that this will make your eyes instantly feel more comfortable and make it more bearable for you to work for longer periods of time. And my tip number 4 is to block the blue light emitted from your display screen. Now, one way or another, many of us will have heard something about blue light and the impact that it might have on our eyes, in one scenario or the other. But certainly as far as devices are concerned, we know that a lot of monitors and display screens emit a lot of blue light. Now, whether or not it is good for the health of the eyes, that's a discussion that perhaps I'll go through in another video. But one of the things that we do know is that many people find that just by blocking out the blue light, it instantly seems to make your vision more comfortable while using the monitor and the display screen. So I'd highly recommend giving this a try if it's something you've never done before, and you can do this in a couple of ways. So first of all, you can go out and purchase some blue blocking glasses. There's plenty of them available on Amazon. I think these products do help in this particular situation and for other reasons as well, and again, that's perhaps beyond the scope of this discussion. But you can get something from Amazon. You can also get prescription blue blocking products made by your optometrist or other online retailers as well. Now, simple and free way of doing this though is by using the blue light blocking software that's already included with every Windows PC out there. And you can do this by just perhaps navigating over to your notification center, and you'll see a kind of a night mode there, and if you click on that, and you'll find that the display will go yellow in color, and that tells you that the blue light has been kind of removed. That yellow appearance arises because of the fact that when a blue light is filtered out, the light that is passes through or transmitted is more yellow in color. So that's something that you can do instantly and free if you're a Windows user. I believe that Macs also may have something like that as well, but certainly if you're an iPhone user, and I think Android users as well, you can search on your phone and look for night shift mode, and when you enable the night shift mode on your phone, it's got a timer as well, so you can enable it to come on automatically at certain times of the day, or you can just put it on manually. But you'll also find that the whole display takes a yellow tinge to it, and this is the blue blocking kind of filter that's enabled on your phone already. Now, tip number 5 is to give your eye muscles a break. Now, as I talked about, there's effectively 3 muscle groups that are involved when you want to hold your focus for long periods of time looking at an object close up. And those muscle groups are the muscles that are to do with how your eyes turn in, how your eyes kind of converge, and that's what we call your extraocular muscles. So that's the muscles that help you look left, right, up, down, and everything in between. And then the other group of muscles are the muscles that control your pupils, the pupillary muscles. And then the third group is what we call the ciliary muscles, and these are the muscles that do your auto-focusing for you. So it's important to recognize that these muscles can get tired just like any other muscle in the body, and if you've been holding your focus for any stretch of time, that it's important to have a good break to allow these muscles to rest, to recuperate, and then continue to be effective for you. And a common rule of thumb to consider in this kind of situation really is the 20-20-20 rule, and it's one that you might have heard of before. It simply reminds you to take a break every 20 minutes, and when you take that break, to look about 20 feet away, and you can do that for 20 seconds. And that kind of really allows your eyes to have a little bit of a rest because you're doing it at relatively short intervals. I think for longer working periods as well, it's probably worth halfway through your day having a little bit more of a break to kind of do some eye exercises that kind of help to de-stress your eyes a little bit. And I've got a few of these eye exercises that I'm going to kind of leave a link to if you want to check that out on my website. You can just check that out, and also access a free PDF that will help you to implement some of these exercises as well. So for the interest of time, I won't go through them right now, but it's available there, and I'll leave a link in the description box, so if you want to check that out in the box below. And now tip 6 is my final tip for you, and this is to hydrate your eyes. Now, it's well known that one of the common contributing factors to computer vision syndrome is the impact of dry eyes on the user. Now, with dry eyes, this can arise because you are somebody who is prone to dry eyes anyway, but this is not always necessarily the case, and in fact, people who ordinarily wouldn't experience dry eyes can have to some degree a level of drying out while they're using computer screens and display screens as well for prolonged periods of time. Now, the reason for this is because of the well-known fact that when we all stare at an object close up, our blink rate and blink efficiency reduces. It's almost, if you like a protective mechanism, that our visual system, which automatically blinks for us, understands that we're doing an important task and reduces how often we blink to allow us to be able to concentrate. Now the only problem is that for most people, this reduced blink rate often means that they're blinking incompletely. So the blinks that they're taking tend to be half blinks rather than full blinks. So there's always an area which never fully gets wet on the surface of the eye, and as a result this area starts to experience drying out. The drying out then leads to the symptoms of soreness of the eyes, can lead to kind of red or pinky eyes developing, and also can kind of just heighten the sensation of discomfort when you're working for a stretched period of time. So it's important to really prompt yourself to blink more in the first instance, because it's really, our blinking is an automated thing. Really, it's not something that we think about. So as much as people might say you need to blink more, it's not necessarily something that you're going to easily remember to do. So you could perhaps stick some sticky notes on your laptop or your display screen, just to remind yourself to blink. And then when you blink as well, then it's important to take full complete blinks so your whole eye's getting hydrated and moisturized, and then do that regularly. So typically most people, when we kind of look at display screens, even when you do things like a task like driving, our blink rate may reduce by as much as 50%, if not a little bit more. So this kind of change and this kind of reduction in blinking efficiency can be quite dramatic. So it's important to be conscious. If you're somebody who feels a lot of soreness of your eyes, be conscious if you're blinking, making sure that you blink completely and blink regularly as well. And then also the other point that I make is, while you're perhaps doing this task, have a glass of water beside you, and set yourself the task of complete drinking that bottle of water, and just make sure that you're actually physically well hydrated as well. And this goes a long way to generally making sure your whole body's hydrated well, which will also help you feel comfortable, but also can lend to the hydration of your eye as well. And so these measures are simple measures, but they can have quite a significant impact over time. So it's important to kind of factor them all in, and not to kind of overlook any one of these things, and particularly something as kind of seemingly simple as blinking more often. That's the 6 tips that I got for you. Hope they were helpful. My question for you today really is, which of those 6 tips do you think is going to be the most beneficial to you? So leave me a message in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please consider subscribing, liking and sharing this video as well. Take care.